Now, what we haven't mentioned yet is the organists. There are actually 4 physical organs in the Minster: the main choir organ at the top of the organ arch, the nave organ, the pipes of which are all upstairs on the south side of the nave, the chamber organ in the nave, which I've only ever heard once in 12 years, and a little electronic chamber organ which mainly lives in the choir, and which we affectionately call the drinks cabinet because that's what it looks like. That very instrument which Ed played in the orchestra for the Mozart Vespers and the Remembrance Concert. It actually belongs to the Nottingham Bark Choir, but somehow lives in Southwell Minster. In an average week, there'll be between 12 and 15 services that require organ accompaniment, if you include special Saints' Day services, weddings, funerals, diocesan services, and of course many, many more services, up to 3 a day for 3 weeks in the run-up to Christmas, what with all the schools and everybody booking in. These will all be played by our 3 organists. Paul Provost is the rector chori, who has been with us now for 3 years, and although he's a fine organist, he mainly gets to conduct, and he's good at that as well. Johnny Alsop, new last September, our excellent assistant director of music, who, as well as playing most of the services, deputises as conductor for the cathedral choir and conducts the Minster Chorale, our rather good amateur choir. Both of those are full-time posts with accommodation provided. Finally, we have an organ scholar who's with us for 1 or 2 years and who will come either just before or just after university. He or she will play for a selection of choral services, the proportion increasing as they get more experienced. They also do a small proportion of conducting. Of course, our organ scholars go on to greater things. Currently, former organ scholars from here are playing at Manchester, Chelmsford, Derby and Newport cathedrals, as well as Christchurch Priory and Holy Trinity Sloane Square. And Peter Holder, who was the organ scholar here, aged 18 when I first came, is assistant organist at Westminster Abbey, one of the 3 or 4 top jobs in the country. Mention of the organists links to a good story and the final piece I'm going to play to you. Southwell is twinned with the French town of Say in Normandy, a small market town with a medium-sized cathedral with 2 pointy towers. When planning a tour there, our previous rector chori, Paul Hale, never one to miss out on a free holiday, went out there on a recce. Now, as you may know, French cathedrals tend to have a small organ near the choir and a big, noisy one at the back of the cathedral above the west door. When Paul visited Say prior to the tour, they told him that the big organ was fine, but the choir organ had been broken for years. As someone who knows about organs, Paul rolled up his sleeves, and 10 minutes later, with no more technical equipment than a piece of string, he had the choir organ mended. When we did our concert there on tour in 2011, they had had the little organ tuned, and for an encore we did the Kyrie from the Vienne Mass, which is written to use both organs of a French cathedral. It was the first time the French congregation had heard both organs played together in living memory. As a result, we were invited back the following year to record the whole of the Vienne Mass and another Mass by Lenglet. It was the first time an English choir had recorded these pieces with French organs, and it was quite an event in church music circles, because A, English organs do not sound very good in this kind of French music, and B, French choirs are generally rubbish, so our singing was better than any of the French recordings. So coming up as sound clip 7 is the Kyrie from that recording, the very piece we did as an encore at the end of the 2011 concert. Before you switch me off, I will say goodbye and keep safe. If all goes to plan, you should be spared my ugly face in next week's episode. For more information, you will have to wait and see.